Hello and welcome to the third and the Don Football Show. I am Joe. With me is Cecil, as always. Week 1 is in the books. Week 2 is here. Cecil, we're going to be going over the recap of Week 1. We're going to be making our picks for Week 2. There's a lot to go over this week because I think there was a lot of results that weren't expected, but that's why we love the NFL season. It changes year by year. So how are you doing, buddy?
Dude, I'm great. It was an exciting week one, Bengals aside. Some offenses started out slow, but that's to be expected these days, and it's exciting to get back into the swing of things.
Absolutely. I mean, having football on almost every day of the week, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday for right now, and then later on when action comes back every day of the week, it's going to be so much fun. But I'm excited to have it back. There's a lot of things we'll talk about. As a reminder, if you could like and subscribe on YouTube or subscribe wherever you get your podcast, that'll help us out as we move along this season. See, so let's get right into the recap here. We're gonna start on Thursday and work our way through the weekend, even though there's some bigger news that maybe happened last night game or in Monday night's game. So Thursday night it was the Lions and Chiefs. Now we both felt decently confident that the Lions would cover the spread. They would be within the 4.5, 6.5 wherever you got them, depending on the day you bet them. But they went out and won the game 21-20. Now this was a game where the first half there was some scoring. It was 21 points first half, and the second half things really settled down. But the name of the game here, I think, was the Lions having a pretty good offense. Their defense showed real improvement, and then you also had the Chiefs not playing with Travis Kelce, not playing with Chris Jones. We're not going to say it's an asterisk like Mike Tirico did on air. We're not here to do that, but we're just saying that was those players weren't there, and a lot of the Chiefs receivers, Kadarius Toney included, dropped a lot of passes, and it made life tough. The Lions get all the credit for the win. The Chiefs, I think, have some work to do. They're a different team than they were last year. Every Super Bowl champion has to go through trials and tribulations while they try to repeat, and all the credit to the Lions. Big win.
Exactly. Yeah. To say that it's an asterisk on air is ridiculous. First off, I mean, this is the National Football League. I mean, there are people who are hurt, something's going on. It happens in literally every single game. So to say, like, oh, you get an asterisk because they were hurt, it's like you can make that argument for literally anything ever. Like the Bengals have an asterisk because their entire offensive line was hurt last year. Does that make them Super Bowl champions? No. Chiefs still won. They're still winners. Like it's that simple. But yeah, I mean, we talked about the Lions here just kind of trying to control possession, not letting Pat Mahomes have the ball at the end of the game. And they were able to accomplish that a big point, especially in the second half. Obviously, that pick six was very unfortunate for Pat Mahomes. He threw an accurate pass. Kadarius Toney just kind of had it bounce up on him, and Brian Branch just took it to the house. So that's stuff you can't really prepare for if you're the Chiefs offense. But I mean, it is worrisome where they're at. I'm not going to say the Chiefs are going to miss the playoffs, or not even that they're going to not win the AFC West, but their offense has gotten slowly depleted over the last couple of years. First with Tyreek gone, they got Travis Kelce. They let Juju Smith-Schuster leave after last year. I mean, when Travis Kelce isn't on the field, their options are very limited. Sky Moore has not been able to step up from what we've seen. Kadarius Toney, has potential, but I mean, if he's dropping passes like that, doesn't really matter if he can't catch the football and use that speed. And then you got Marquez Valdez-Scantling still there, who is a journeyman receiver at best. So they also got rid of Melko Hordman. Like, guys that have been on this team, not anybody who's really lit up the scoreboard, but guys that were consistent role players into this offense. So that they're all gone. I think it's going to be a struggle for them. I think they'll get into form, just by midseason like they always do. Pat Mahomes is still the quarterback. Travis Kelce will be there. Chris Jones is back, which will definitely bolster the defense a great deal. But, I mean, it's all credit to the Lions in the world. I mean, they went into the Chiefs' house on opening night, and they took a victory from them. Dan Campbell was aggressive in a lot of different places during that game. A lot of people in the NFL would not do the same thing, but that's what it takes to beat one of the best teams sometimes, especially when you're playing Patrick Mahomes. You got to gain any advantage you possibly can, because otherwise you're going to be in a situation where you're going to lose. Did I think the Chiefs going for it on 4th and 20, right, with 2:09 on the clock was a little cocky, then getting a false start and going for it on 4th and 25? I think there's a point where Andy Reid and the Chiefs offense thinks they can do a little too much beyond what normal, just analytics, just normal thought would tell you to do at that point, especially without your number one target out there. So I think that was a big bonehead move. If I were them, I would have punted it and just, let it play out. You get the 2-minute warning at that point. If you punt it away, you have 3 timeouts. Let the Lions put it in their hands and let them feel all the pressure of knowing that they got to keep the ball away from Patrick Mahomes. Instead, they got all the wind out of their sails because they won that 4th down, and the Lions just pounded the ball at the end of the game, which is great. They closed out a game, which is more than the Detroit Lions have done over the last decade. So there are a lot of signs for life for this Lions team. The potential for them to win the AFC North is clearly there. There were a lot of doubters still before the season. I think this kind of shows what we saw in the Lions, both you and I. And, the Chiefs are still going to be in a great place. They're still a contender, obviously, but they are by no means a perfect team.
Yeah, Cecil, you mentioned the Chiefs. The Chiefs receivers. Rashee Rice, the rookie, was kind of the best one, and that's not saying much because he didn't even do that well. He just had a touchdown. But they got to find something out quick if they want to do some real damage. Otherwise, people will just key on Travis Kelce. And, last year they had some guys, like we talked about, Juju Smith-Schuster, some guys who were kind of solid and stepped up. So that's something to note. I also want to say very good for the brand, for the draft, TGH draft brand last night. The Lions, we mocked the draft at first last year. Then it got better as time went on. So we have Sam Laporta playing pretty well. We have Brian Branch with that pick 6. Those were 2 of the latter picks that they had. But we also had Jahmyr Gibbs, who looked really good, but I want Dan Campbell to just totally unleash him moving forward. I think a lot of fantasy managers out there kind of want that as well. But I think you're right. I think Dan Campbell towed the line of doing the kind of crazy stuff, and it worked out, and the Lions deserve the win. And, now they come back home and play the Seahawks, and we'll see what happens. NFC North is wide open this year. We'll move on to Sunday, so let's get the bad one out of the way here. We have the Bengals and the Browns. Bengals came into this game as like a 2.5, 2-point favorite. The line kept on moving closer to even. I think that probably had a lot to do with the weather, and it ended up that the weather was a huge neutralizer to this team. Now, I've been personally critical of the Bengals offense because they're not aggressive enough, but in a game where there's a pretty big downpour, throwing on first down all the time maybe isn't the best thing, especially when the running game was kind of going there for a while. I think during the first half, Joe Mixon was up around like 4.5, 5 yards to carry. It came down to like 3.5 by the end of the game. But I would like them to see them run the ball more, lean on these offensive line signings they have, not let Myles Garrett just attack Joe Burrow again. That would have been nice, but also I think the Bengals maybe could have planned better for Deshaun Watson's leg. There was a lot of defensive ends who were getting too far up the field. There wasn't much quarterback spy. There was, the weather really changed things, and the Bengals were not prepared for it. This is not an excuse. You got to be ready to play in any type of weather. That's just how it goes. But the Browns took advantage of it. Nick Chubb had a good day. Deshaun Watson scrambled. He didn't throw the ball well, but he scrambled well enough. Myles Garrett just terrorized the Bengals' offensive line again. And the Browns won 24-3. And it's a shame. It's kind of stinks to start that way, especially when the Bills and Chiefs lost for the Bengals, and you have a chance to get a step up on home field advantage. But that's what happened. I think it's just a little mental block against the Browns for now. Joe Burrow has a new haircut. Hopefully they can turn the page.
Right. I mean, that said, the weather sucked, and that's fine. That's going to affect things. I can see how that can affect a pass first offense, but that doesn't excuse the Bengals for having zero game plan around. And by zero, I mean it's like they didn't even acknowledge what could happen if it was a really bad. And we're not talking like a little rain. We're talking like consistent, just sopping rain, because that's what it looked like. And it looked rough out there. It looked hard to play. I mean, the Browns won this game 24-3 ultimately, but I mean, this game was 3-0 all the way until pretty much the end of the first half, where they scored that Deshaun Watson touchdown last minute of the half. So, I mean, this is a close game for most of the time, mostly because the offenses could not get it going. Chubb was able to kind of finally break away after the Bengals defense was tired, and Deshaun Watson made some plays with his legs that led to that first touchdown. But other than that, I mean, especially in the first half, the defensive plan by the Bengals, they played decently well besides letting Deshaun Watson get up the field a little bit. they got some turnovers, and they played consistent, and they didn't really let up that many points at all. So, I mean, the Bengals defense looks good. Their safeties held up as much as you could have hoped. Really, I didn't see anything glaring that was like this needs to be fixed right away. Then again, it's hard to get a ball downfield with that much rain. But I mean, the defense did what they could. I mean, it's hard to really stay that strong when your offense is doing next to nothing and you're just on the field pretty much the entire game. It feels like. But I mean, it's really all about the Bengals' offense in this one. If we want to talk about it, I mean, the Bengals basically conceded by the halfway through the fourth quarter that the game was over. Which I mean, at that point, it seemed like it was just a foregone conclusion. I hate them pulling people out, but at the same time, you're down, three possessions basically. It's probably time to, throw in the towel. But yeah, I mean, why not run the ball with Joe Mixon more? That's going to be a clear doing. He was running well early on in the game. And, we're doing a lot of these options and RPOs types of things that are built into the offense. However, like, it was a day where you could tell Joe Burrow wanted to throw the ball downfield. He did a couple times. However, these 50-50 balls the Bengals receivers are usually very good at catching, got amped up to a whole nother level because, one, the timing was a little off, especially between Joe Burrow and T. Higgins. That was very clear. And two, the timing's not exactly right. Not only are you contending with that with a 50-50 ball, where high pointing it is very important, but two, now the ball is wet, your hands are wet, and it's much harder to obviously catch a football that way. So it just was not a high percentage. If you want to get analytics based, this is not a high percentage success rate for a play, especially in a game where you don't need an 80-yard pass. I mean, you could just run the ball and do some quick middle of the field stuff, and the Bengals just their time rough, and then they just clearly did not game plan for the weather that they faced. So those aren't excuses. Now, as a team that want to compete for Super Bowl, and if they play like that, they look like a bottom 5 team in the league. The defense is good. The offense, I believe, will get better. I think they right the ship a lot this week as well. But yeah, let's hope they don't find any more rainstorms, because I've never seen. They played in all kinds of horrible weather before, and I've never seen them just be completely unprepared.
Yeah, this is one of the football gods just had it out for the Bengals there. Apparently in Cleveland, it was only raining at the stadium. That was something we noticed. We were checking the weather during the game, and the people in Cleveland even said, like, it's kind of weird that it's only raining at the stadium, so it made it a little bit different. I will say, I'll give credit to defensive coordinator Jim Schwartz for the Browns, lining Myles Garrett up in multiple places. He was able to rush from the interior as like an inside linebacker. That did pretty well. Give him a lot of credit for that. And I do think the Browns are a much better team. As someone who's not very big on the Browns most years, if they play this style of football, whether it's not going to be like that weather all the time. If they run the football and rely on that defense and let Myles Garrett just pin his ears back and rush the passer, they can make the playoffs. They very much can do that. It's about kind of getting things going from here on out, not just relying on the weather to help you out. Which again, no excuses there. They won the game. The Bengals did. All right, let's move on to other games at Sunday at 1 o'clock. So the next one up, we have the Falcons beating the Panthers 24-10. Slow start to this game. Kind of expected it. We had two kind of inexperienced quarterbacks. We had second-year quarterback Desmond Ridder against first-year quarterback Bryce Young. In Bryce Young's first game, he threw 2 interceptions. That Falcons defense, they really invested in it in the free agent market, and that allowed them to go pick Bijan Robinson. He had a touchdown in his first game. Definitely recommend checking out that highlight. It was a catch where he made a move to get in the end zone. But this will have some frustrations for both teams and fantasy people as well. I think for the Panthers, their offensive line still isn't fixed. It's going to be hard for Bryce Young to have a great season with that offensive line not being great. Their defense is still pretty good, but that's going to be kind of the key bugaboo there. And then for the Falcons, you draft all these early draft picks. Tyler Algier has 2 touchdowns, has more carries than the Bijan Robinson, your first-round pick this year. Drake London had less catches than Desmond Ridder did. Desmond Ridder's the quarterback, and a ball got deflected back to him. So you're kind of thinking you took this guy in the top 10 last year. And then Kyle Pitts, the first-round pick, 2 years ago, had 2 catches for 44 yards. So the Falcons probably happy to get their win, but there's also some frustrations from fantasy managers and Falcons fans alike that are saying, like, hey, this is more the football is more about the guys on the field than it is the scheme. We're seeing that all over the world, with Tyreek Hill's big week, which we'll get to here in a little bit. Like, you got to use your guys. So, well, Falcons win and they got to feel good because this NFC South is kind of weak. I mean, at some point, these first round picks have to do something, Cecil. I don't know.
Right. I mean, it's just I don't understand Arthur Smith's offense. It's literally just to run the ball forever, even though like I mean, we're talking about an offense that looks like it was built for an NFL 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you don't just run the ball like this. Like you don't barely ever pass it. It worked against the Panthers team, which is great. They got the win. They can feel good about it. But your quarterback attempts 18 passes in the modern day NFL. I mean, maybe you're Derrick Henry and the Titans, sure, and Bijan has the potential to be, the best running back in the league, obviously, but they're not even using him as much. They're using Cordell Patterson half the time. So, I mean, if that's what your offense is going to be, and you want to kind of model it after that kind of smash mouth thing we've seen with the Titans to be kind of the answer to, a past league where guys are throwing, 35 times a game, that's fine, but it just is a head scratcher to why the hell is Drake London a top 10 pick? Why is Kyle Pitts, who is just this wonderkin of a tight end, why did you draft him fourth overall instead of a lineman or, somebody on defense? Jesse Bates had a good game for their defense. Their defense definitely looked better than I expected it to, especially this early in the season. But they are playing a rookie quarterback, and, we'll see how that works out as they go, play a team like the New Orleans Saints. Because, I mean, I look at this game, I still think New Orleans Saints are the team to beat in the AFC South. And I feel like this offense that Arthur Smith is running is not going to be a long-term success. I mean, if you told me you had all these guys on a roster, I'd be like, this is a great, dynamic offense. And I see it every game, and I'm just like, you might as well just get a fucking blocking wide receiver. Like, get somebody like Stanley Morgan for the Bengals, throw him out there and let him block, because why Drake London, it's not even that he didn't catch the ball, he got one target the entire game. One target for your, top 10 very talented wide receiver doesn't make any sense to me. It is an offense that will probably fail, and it needs to become more dynamic, and they need to develop that. Because even if, let's say this works, they managed to go somehow 10-7 with this offense, they're not going anywhere in the playoffs. They're definitely not winning a Super Bowl with this team. That's proven, and Arthur Smith needs to adapt, and this team all to use the talent they did.
Yeah, so I'm with you on that, Cease. It's something that he needs to figure out, but also he is like taunting, like, oh, like fantasy managers, I don't care about your fantasy team. It's yes, like some people who play fantasy are realizing it, but it's not like they're complaining. They're complaining because of fantasy, but that's not like the result. It's like, hey, dude, you are not using the players that are on your team that you've drafted to play. That's like you're hurting your team at that rate. Like you said, why not trade these guys and go get picks or something that can help you out? I get that he wants to be that running team. But what scares me is Tyler Algier took more carries this week than Bijan Robinson. And as we saw with Jahmyr Gibbs, sometimes rookie running backs don't always get going right away, right? But, like, at the same time, Cordell Patterson's coming back next week probably. He was out. He's the Joker, whatever the heck the Joker means now. Like, what does that mean? How many carries is he going to get? So are you going to use your guys or not? So the upside of this team is in those young players. I'm not a huge Desmond Ridder guy. Hopefully he figures it out for their sake. But at the same time, like, making him better relies on him using those weapons. I would love to see them try to do that in the future and not just have their coach say, well, we don't care about fantasy people. No, it's about making your team the best possible, because you can't win this way strictly running the ball and not relying on a quarterback in the NFL anymore. That's just not how it works. So hopefully they figure it out. Next game up, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Indianapolis Colts. This was Anthony Richardson's debut. Actually looked better than expected. He's kind of raw coming out of college, some accuracy issues, reading the field issues, but he looked pretty good. Might have a little bit of a Mitchell Trubisky alert on us, though, because he really didn't throw to the left side of the field. Most of his completions were to the right, but that's something he can work on. It was a good first start. But for the Jaguars, they get the win 31-21. Specifically, have to point out Trevor Lawrence was throwing some big time throws. Looked like he's ready to make another step in his development, which is a good sign for the Jaguars. And then also, Calvin Ridley comes back from the gambling suspension last year, and 8 receptions, 101 yards, and a touchdown. It looks like they're just on fire. I mean, Christian Kirk didn't have a good day, but they, you think about when you kind of even things out a little bit. This offense has some weapons. Trevor Lawrence looks like he's taking the next step, and the AFC South is still pretty garbage. So, good news for the Jaguars all around.
Yeah, Anthony Richardson must be an amputee. He can't turn left, which is okay. I mean, yeah, he seems to be a lot further along his development than I thought he would be, especially game one going into the team that's supposed to win their division. He uses athleticism to the best of his ability, which was huge. I mean, he looked athletic, he looked the part. Like you said, accuracy is going to be a problem. He's got all the power in the world, but I mean, he gets his accuracy, gets to be 60 to 63% passing completion guy. That his legs and his arm strength will make up for the rest. Like, he doesn't have to be the most accurate quarterback in the NFL. Nobody was trying to make Anthony Richardson that. But I mean, it's a very winnable division. It's not one that's very dominant. We'll see where the Jaguars go this year. But I mean, he develops. The Colts could be a force, especially in the weak AFC South. That being said, right now it does look like the Jaguars division. Trevor Lawrence made some great throws. The offense really played really well. The defense was the part that didn't do as well as I had expected. They're kind of getting, talk about an offense that doesn't have its star running back. The receivers are very, just nothing really of much accomplishment. And, they're still in a dogfight with the Colts. And I get it's week one, but there's parts of this Jaguars team I love. Trevor Lawrence, and, I love Travis Etienne, and, I think that Ridley looked really good in his return, but it's really going to be that defense that is going to be the make or break for him ultimately. So we'll see how they step up, but I mean, it looks like they're going to win the AFC South probably pretty easily.
Definitely looks that way, Cease. One thing to note, this was a game that had some weird gambling things going on. The Colts had the ball with the chance to score late in the game, and they could have kicked a field goal to cut it to 7, then do an onside kick, but instead they wasted like a minute and a half at the end of the game trying to get the touchdown. Made no sense. Less chance to win the game doing it that way, but I know there's gamblers out there who had the Jaguars, I believe, like what, 6.5, -6.5 was a lot of the week. So that's one of two games.
Nice 3.5.
Yeah, just we'll have to see, I guess, why Shane Steichen did that, but. There's another game coming up where that also happened. It's just very weird stuff going on at the NFL. But, yeah, the Jaguars get the win and should be able to win the AFC South again this year. We're going to move on to the Buccaneers and Vikings, Cease. This is one we probably didn't expect, but, Baker Mayfield had a pretty good day, all things considered. They didn't have the ball moving on the ground very much, but he's able to hit Mike Evans for some key plays. They get the win 20-17. Kirk Cousins tries to lead them back in the fourth quarter with a touchdown. But this offensive line looks like it's got some issues for the Vikings, and maybe just some of those one-score games are catching up to them. Kirk Cousins did throw 344 yards, 2 touchdowns. Justin Jefferson had 9 catches for 150 yards, but you end up losing the game. We don't know how much better the defense is this year. And the offensive line, if it's going to struggle like that, things could go from having them be a playoff team this year to being on the outside looking in this year.
Right. I mean, their offensive line did not play well. God, is the Viking secondary horrible at times? I mean, it doesn't look good. I mean, they've got Harrison Smith back there, but I mean, other than that, I mean, just the defense as a whole for the Vikings was a problem last year, and it seems like it's Kirk Cousins is going to throw for 300, 400 yards almost, but it's not going to be the crisp and clean 400 yards. There's going to be a lot of turnover-worthy plays. Some teams will capitalize, some won't. And they're going to score some points, but it's not a formula for a good football team. Kirk Cousins can play well until it really matters there at the end. That being said, Justin Jefferson looked great. Jordan Addison looked good in his debut. Madison looked good filling in for role for Dalvin Cook at running back after Dalvin Cook was obviously cut. T.J. Hawkinson didn't have a great game, but he was there and wasn't used. So I mean, there's a lot of weapons on this Vikings offense, so they have the ability to just get yards and score some touchdowns. It was though disappointing; they only got 17 yards, turnovers, and then I just don't understand what happened. I've got Mike Evans a fan, but what is happening? Like, you keep letting this guy get balls deep, and just why are we letting this guy who literally this is all he's pretty much good for in his career, just running by for touchdowns in the end zone? Why is he standing back there? I mean, what about the Tampa Bay offense was that threatening the Vikings couldn't keep track of Mike Evans? I don't know, and it's what cost them the game in my eyes.
Did you just say they let Mike Evans get balls deep?
No, I said get behind them. Okay. Anyway, if that's not better. Um,
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. It just came out funny. I'm with you. I'm Mike Evans in fantasy too. Um, but it was a big game. You're right. The Viking secondary is not very good. I'm encouraged to see what Baker Mayfield does the rest of the way. I don't think it'll be as good as this going against the Vikings, but I'm encouraged to see what he will do. And then for the Vikings, um, we just talk about the Lions, how well they're playing. This could be, again, the one score wins last year. I'm just not. Those are a coin flip, and a lot of the coin flips went their way last year. It may not happen this year. All right, the next game up, we have the other interesting gambling thing going on here. We have the Saints beating the Titans 16-15. Derek Carr, pretty good debut with 305 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception for the Saints. Was able to find Chris Olave for 112 yards. Michael Thomas played pretty well in his return. Slant Boy is back. There's a cool clip out there that shows Derek Carr asking to throw another go route to Rashid Shaheed, who's a wide receiver whose number is 22 now, which is just weird, out of this world. And the coach is like, yeah. And then Jameis is like in the back and like, yeah, throw the go. So it was kind of a fun thing. So they get the win 16-15. They hold on at the end when the Titans score 6 fourth quarter points. The Titans are down 4 with a couple minutes left, and they end up kicking a field goal, I think with 2 minutes left, to go down 16-15 because they thought they were going to get the ball back. But it was I think 4th and goal where they should have just gone for it. So Mike Vrabel maybe knows the spread or something here, because the spread on this one I think was 3.5 to the Saints. So they kicked the field goal with 2 minutes to go, and I would say anyone who does that, it's either got to be the worst weather of all time, or even then, why are you kicking the field goal? But I guess this is in a dome. I don't know why you do it. I really don't know what's going on here. Good win for the Saints to protect their home turf, and for the Titans, this could be a bad year. Ryan Tannehill looked bad, Cease.
Yeah, Titans they look like shells of form. I mean, they look like shells of a team from 2 years ago that was really good and got the #1 seed in the AFC. Yeah, Ryan Tannehill had that one really great year, and ever since that, he's been hurt, and he's just regressed into the turnover machine we saw kind of with the Dolphins a lot of times. I mean, he doesn't make good reads, forces balls downfield, and he doesn't take what the defense gives him. He's horrible at it. He doesn't see guys in zone, and they just step up and literally take the ball out of the guy's hands he was intending to target. Jeffrey Simmons, time. I mean, that's good to see him still playing really well for the Titans. And Derrick Henry had a decent game, wasn't anything crazy, but it's honestly an underrated Saint defense at times, especially when they're at home like that. But yeah, it's a questionable. I don't know why in the world you're down by 4. You're literally looking at the goal line. You have Derrick Henry. You have some weapons. You have some big guys. Traylon Burks is a big receiver. Get out there and make something happen. Try to force the issue, and the other team gets the ball at the 4 or 5 yard line. And next thing you know, they've got to go kind of really try to, not punt the ball away and give you an advantage where you need to score a touchdown anyway. It doesn't make any sense to me. It's a weird. I don't know. The NFL is not going to investigate it or anything. I don't know if they ever would do anything like that, especially with a lot of their relationships they have with sports gambling. But it was horrible. I don't know what analytics or what he was looking at to think, I'd rather have 3 points here than get none. Because the reality is 3 points, 1, 2, 3 points, none of that matters. 4 points or more. And you can take the win here if you do this. Why? Yeah, it was stupid. Bad game planning by Mike Vrabel, which is really surprising considering, he is somebody who's usually in talks for being coach of the year in and year out.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, think they're going to try to rebound here. They usually make a run late in the season when they can run the ball and it's kind of cold. No one wants to tackle Derrick Henry, but that remains to be seen. It still looks a little bit different. Maybe they'll be turning the offense over to a different quarterback since they have three on the roster now that have been one's a starter and two have been drafted decently highly in the last couple of years. All right, see, the next one, I won't spend too much time explaining. The 49ers just demolished the Steelers, 30-7. There was a little bit of trash talk before this game. Everyone on the 49ers looked good, pretty much. Brock Purdy coming back from that elbow surgery looked good. Christian McCaffrey, Brandon Ayuk had 2 touchdowns. They are, as we talked about in the season preview show, or the week 1 preview show last week, I guess I should say, they are a very talented team at multiple different positions. The Steelers have a lot of work to do, and they lost Cam Hayward in this game. They lost Deontay Johnson in this game. It's looking like the Steelers will need Mike Tom a miracle to finish above 500 again.
Yeah, I mean, no one saw this coming. I mean, I picked the 49ers to win, but I said it was going to be super close. I even took the Steelers plus 2.5 because I thought it would be like literally like a point in this game. That clearly didn't happen. I mean, the Steelers looked horrible, especially on offense. For an offense that was supposed to take kind of a step forward, Kenny Pickett did not look good. Najee Harris did not do anything. They were just completely ineffective. Deontay Johnson got hurt as well, so he's out for a couple weeks. Um, yeah, I mean, and the defense really didn't do anything. I mean, Brock Purdy looked really good, like better than he looked last year. Like he looked like he's really even stepped up his game, even despite coming from an elbow injury. I mean, the 49ers just had to get a new right tackle, and it seemed like the Steelers defense just didn't do that much to really press. That being said, Christian McCaffrey really did a good job of running the ball, so they couldn't really focus as much on the pass. But for Steelers defense, that was wanted as being one of the best, they didn't have a quarterback who's not known to really be that talented in Brock Purdy really at all. Um, I mean, they just beat him down. They beat him at Heinz Field by a great deal as well, and yeah, that was an embarrassing first game. The Bills had an embarrassing first game as well. At least it was in weather and it wasn't at home. For the Steelers, it was an absolute mess.
Oh, absolutely, and I think this weekend proved to me that the NFC elite teams are the NFC elite teams in different ways, and the 49ers are that team. And if Brock Purdy improves this year, that team could be more dangerous than it was last year. Let's just hope they have the quarterback depth this year if something does happen, because that could have totally changed that NFC Championship game last year. All right, 2 teams who are not projected to be very good this year played. The Commanders beat the Cardinals 20-16. The Cardinals kind of went up to an early lead in the first half, and then the Commanders came back in the second. I will say, I don't think we can glean too much about this either way. I mean, Josh Dobbs is starting for the Cardinals. They're probably going to tank. Their defense played tough. They played very physical. And Sam Howell, I don't think if you have the guy yet after 202 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. These are 2 teams on the stinker list. Until they prove something otherwise, these are teams you're not putting on Sunday Ticket unless there's some diehard fan or some fantasy reason why.
The fantasy reasons are starting to get a little like Marquise Brown's in my dynasty league, and I'm always just sitting there like he's a number 1 receiver, but is it even worth starting with? Even though I got to start like 12 people this week, it's the hard thing to figure out. So that's where the Cardinals' offense is for fantasy. And the Commanders, I mean, yeah, Sam Howell is okay. Like he just showed he's very average again. Is he better than the string of Commanders quarterbacks we've seen over the last couple of years? I don't know. Terry McLaurin got some balls towards the end. Brian Robinson didn't look bad. Curtis Samuel had his normal game early in the season where he almost eclipses 100 yards, and people remember Curtis Samuel exists. And yeah, it was enough to win him a game against a team that's horrible. It's good to see the Cardinals not really just kind of give up from the onset or anything like that. They did play hard. They did have an early lead. But if this team was in any way trying not to just embrace the tank, they would have kept Colt McCoy as their quarterback. That's just that simple. You can say all you want, but like they traded for Josh Dobbs and cut Colt McCoy. I would never have said that Josh Dobbs is better than Colt McCoy, especially for someone when you're talking about wanting to run a functional offense and not some kind of thing with option. I mean, even then, like I couldn't tell you anything why Josh Dobbs is better than Colt McCoy in any facet.
He's a better aerospace engineer. He majored in that at Tennessee. That's all I can give you.
Uh,
Probably.
I mean, have we seen Colt McCoy build a rocket ship?
No, I don't know. I mean, all I'm going to say is that the first quarterback on Mars will probably be Josh Dobbs. Um, let's just move on from these two teams. There's nothing else to say here. Commanders defense maybe can get him in some games, but can't seriously consider them with Sam Howell quarterback until he maybe takes a step. We'll see. Next game up sees a lot of expectations for the Ravens this year. New offensive coordinator, OBJ, Zay Flowers. Come into this game, Mark Andrews is already out for this one. Tyler Linderbaum goes down with an injury, but not too serious. I think he's going to be back this week. Ronnie Stanley goes down with an injury. Marcus Williams, the safety, goes down with an injury. The good news is they got to win because it was against the Texans 25-9. But this team, I mean, it's almost like a what cost. J.K. Dobbins, I forgot the guy who had the most serious injury. Tore his Achilles, can't stay healthy, contract year. Feel bad for him because he could have made some money this season, playing very well. Looked like he got off to a good start. So banged up after the first week. The last couple of years, the Ravens have been banged up so much. It sucks to see that keep on happening. They get the win 25-9. I think they really took advantage of a rookie quarterback starting, and the Texans still just don't have that roster built up quite yet to be competitive against good teams. But, man, the future for the Ravens, it's just going to take another good coaching job by John Harbaugh to get them back to the playoffs after already having these injuries start.
Yeah, they really need to look into figure out who their strength conditioning coach, their whole training staff, what the hell goes on. It's weird. Apparently, I have some Ravens insiders out. They did fire their strength and conditioning coach in like 2020. The one that, and apparently had been there for over a decade. And right after that, all these guys started getting hurt. So you maybe look into getting that guy back because I don't know what the hell, injuries happen, right? But at this level and this severity over and over, there's something with it. I mean, there's no way to have that much bad luck. There's some science behind it. There's something, medically, conditioning wise that the Ravens must. There's got to be something that's causing some of these injuries to happen that could be avoidable. But I mean, it's a sad state. I don't like the Ravens. They're in our division. I pretend I like the Ravens or really like want them to win, but I don't want them to lose because this keeps happening. Like that doesn't prove anything. Mm-hmm. Like it's sad to watch NFL teams sustain injuries because then winning and beating them means nothing. Beating someone who is less than 100% is not good football. Like I want to watch my team beat your team at the best it is. I don't want to watch some and hear all these different excuses. Injuries do happen, but injuries like this, especially in the same positions over and over, are hard to see. They're hard to watch, and they do get a win against a Texans team with a rookie quarterback, and the Texans offense does not look good by any means, and their defense, there's a lot of holes on this team still. Right now it's looking like a toss-up. I think the Cardinals play better than the Texans did overall, so we'll see who ends up being the worst team in the league. Still a lot of games left, obviously. But yeah, the Ravens win one, but where's their season going to go from here, depending on how long it takes some of these guys to get back? Because we're talking J.K. Dobbins, sure they have a strong running back room, but we're talking, Marcus Williams goes down, Marlon Humphrey's banged up, Tyler Linderbaum and Ron Staley are both hurt. Like that's two starting offensive linemen. That stuff is critical, and that's just some I can name off the top of my head, and those are all high-impact, high-level players for the Ravens.
Yeah, that's it's just that it started so soon. Usually it takes some time. 1 week they'll have an injury, but like it just feels like it's not their season. And it's I would love to see what Lamar Jackson could do in this new offense. I'd love to kind of diagnose what's going on, but it's kind of hard when all these injuries are piling up. As you said, for the Texans, they're looking worse than the Cardinals. Man, does that feel great if you're a Cardinals fan because you have the first round pick, so you can go get your Caleb Williams, you can go get your Marvin Harrison, and then next year you can at least be a little bit more fun. All right, we're going to move on to the Sunday evening games, I should say, Sunday evening games. we have the Packers and Bears. First half was pretty close. Cease. It was 10-6 at half, I believe. Jordan Love looked okay, missing some throws, but making some throws too, using his legs on some plays. The second half is where the Packers' total team quality took over. I wouldn't say Jordan Love per se, but their offensive line is the best in the league. They have 6 starters. They're the only team in the league who has 6 starters. They have guys that just rotate in and out because David Bakhtiari has been hurt the last couple of years, who they've had starting experience. So they have 6 starters, and that works. And what also works is the Bears' defense is bad. I mean, they had so many busted coverages. They spent some money on linebackers this offseason, but they really didn't upgrade anywhere else. In the draft, they took some defensive linemen, but again, second, third round picks, maybe not going to help the most. So the Bears with that bad defense and their bad offensive line really created problems because Justin Fields didn't look great. But it's hard to say, like, hey, it's all his fault when he has all this pressure coming in. So the Packers get a big win, 38-20. I think this says more about the Packers' quality roster around Jordan Love than Jordan Love himself. But we'll see how he develops in the next couple of weeks. And it also says a lot about the Bears' offensive line and defense, which does not look like it might. It doesn't look like it's much better than last year, which is a problem.
Right. And yeah, I mean, the Packers, they have a good roster. I mean, they build a roster, plays very well, and it plays very well like, in the regular season. You know, a decent defense. I wouldn't say it's really good. I'd say above average. They've got 2 solid running backs. Aaron Jones is really good. A.J. Dillon could be a starter on some teams. They got some young receivers. Ones that are, talent is okay there. It's not elite by any means. Older veterans like Lazard and Cobb are obviously gone and went to the Jets because of Rodgers. So, I mean, they're a team that can beat bad teams in the NFL. They are structured that way as long as Jordan Love doesn't give the ball away. It's when they get the playoffs, they're screwed. Unless Jordan Love can elevate his game, which he played decently well here. I'll give him that. I'm not going to say he played bad or he didn't have a good game. He did have a good game. But it's easy to do when you have a defense, the Bears, that just did not mesh at all. And, you've got a Bears offense that is barely functional and giving you the ball back, every, probably 10 plays. So, again, the Packers, people say that, they can play for a playoff spot. I think that's possible. I predicted they'd be kind of right there at 8 or 9, 9 and 8. Like that's where I see them at. I think I kind of sided towards 8 and 9 because they're going to run into some tough teams that Jordan Love is going to have to play. It's not going to be a choice of, the whole offense is clicking. We're playing a team that still hasn't get their shit together and it's week 1 of the NFL. So they get the win here. That's great. It's just they've shown they don't have the ability, the way their team's set up, the way they design their plays to make it to the next level. I mean, there's nothing – if you couldn't win or get to a Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams there and all the players that kind of got squandered away, there's no way I see this team being able to advance further or even as far with Jordan Love and these young receivers.
I'm with you on that. That was my case of why I think they might be a 500 team this year. I still think that's on the table, 500 or less. I think I took the under on 7.5 wins, so I'll say less than. It's just that if you can't get that far with Aaron Rodgers, maybe you don't get that far with Jordan Love either. So we'll see how the NFC North plays out. It's going to be an interesting division. Next up, Cease, I'm going to try to recap this game in under 30 seconds because I don't like either of these teams. Raiders 17, Broncos 16. Raiders had Jacoby Myers with a big day, 9 catches for 81 yards, 2 touchdowns. He got knocked out with a concussion. They were really covering Devontae Adams well. They get the win. Jimmy Garoppolo is Jimmy Garoppolo. We all know what he does. It's not the greatest, but whatever. Russell Wilson was more efficient this year, but really didn't push the ball downfield. Sean Payton being back in the NFL is awesome. He tried a surprise onside kick. It worked. The penalty was thrown, so it had to come back. But these 2 teams stink, Cease. I don't care. They stink.
Yeah, they're not good. Their quarterbacks aren't going to take them anywhere. The Raiders at least have good weapons on offense. They got Josh Jacobs. They got Devontae Adams. Jacoby Myers didn't look bad. And, I mean, there's stuff to like about the Raiders' offense. It's just their quarterback sucks and their defense is definitely still really bad. And the Broncos are the definition of a boring-ass team to watch. They have a pretty good defense and a very, not like just inept, but a very just boring, conservative offense that just I mean, maybe he'll take off as Sean Payton gets more comfortable with what Russell Wilson can do. But as of right now, with this game plan showing me, especially from what I've seen from Sean Payton through the years with his offenses with the Saints, is he doesn't trust Russell Wilson at all, and that's a formula for a very, very boring conservative offense. And they're just going to hope to God their defense keeps them in games, and My Ohio is a good home field advantage for them to eke out wins.
Yeah, that's all I got to say about that one, as the great Forrest Gump said. Next up, we have the Philadelphia Eagles and the New England Patriots. Close spread on this game. There was some talk about maybe the Patriots being able to play cover one against the Eagles being a successful path to beating them. But the Eagles hang on to win. They win 25-20. They get the first half lead. They kind of hang on at the end. Mac Jones looks okay in making the comeback attempt with over 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. That was pretty good. But at the end of the day, the Eagles' talent went out, I think, is kind of the big thing. And what we learned in terms of maybe more of a fantasy perspective is Kenneth Gainwell is the lead back, 14 carries. DeAndre Swift was involved a little bit, and then Rashad Penny was a healthy scratch, which, oh boy, Rashad Penny. I wish you stayed healthy, and I wish they didn't pick you that high because I think it set you up for failure. But the Eagles get a tough road win against Bill Belichick team. They deserve some credit here. I'm not panicking over that. And for the Patriots, he played better than I expected, honestly.
They did. I mean, I really thought the Eagles would win by a touchdown. I was wrong. I'm glad they won by 5 due to a lot of lines being about 4 points. So God bless. But, I mean, Mac Jones played better than he did all of last year. And this is kind of more like the Mac Jones we saw 2 years ago where he couldn't throw for some yards. And, like, that's fine. I'd rather, like, Mac Jones that can throw yards, throw for some touchdowns, and he's going to throw for some interceptions and make some bonehead plays. I'd rather have that guy than 200-yard Mac Jones and an interception and maybe 1 touchdown. I'd rather have Jameis Winston that throws for 40 touchdowns and 40 interceptions than a guy that can barely throw for 200 yards and still throws an interception anyway. So,
yeah.
They played better. The Eagles still, I mean, they didn't look great, but, I mean, again, it's week 1. We'll see how the offense meshes over time. And, the defense still looked decently good at a lot of points. And, they're still trying to get those turnovers and those types of things. So, Eagles, I think, are going to be fine. And Patriots, they'll play themselves into a conversation where they're playing relevant games still in December.
Totally agree with that. And yes, I think we like it a lot more when Jameis plays in the NFL. We're going to be petitioning him here at the end of the show, maybe to get on a new team so we can see him play on the field, not just be a backup anymore. Next one up, see, is Dolphins and Chargers, one of the most interesting matchups of the whole weekend. Before we went in, I mean, it was just a hyped matchup, but also when it happened, we have the Herbert versus Tua debate going on. We have 2 teams who have maybe not cracked into those top 3 contenders in the AFC. A lot of fun to be had there. Teron Armstead was out for the Dolphins, though. That made me a little bit hesitant after I made my pick of the Dolphins last week. But Tua came out on fire. He is the early MVP leader. It is after 1 week. That means nothing, but at least I have to say it. He learned Tua Jitsu this offseason, and he's a totally different player. But he had 466 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Really benefiting from getting the ball to his playmakers. Tyreek Hill, 11 catches, 218 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Now, it's a back-and-forth game, and the Dolphins have to make some big throws at the end. They make a deep throw to Tyreek Hill to get him down near the goal line, or down near the red zone, I should say. Then they get in the red zone, and Tua finds Tyreek and the perfect pass that goes right past the defender's helmet. His accuracy has always been what he's been best at, but just great ball placement. This team could be dangerous. This is all without Jalen Ramsey not being there, so everyone else gets off to an 0-1 start in the AFC. The Bills, the Chiefs, the Bengals. Aaron Rodgers goes down for the Jets. The Chargers also lose a game here. And the Dolphins get an early little jump on this, and now they're the betting favorites in the AFC East. This is as good of a start as you could draw up, considering Teron Armstead and Jalen Ramsey were out, 2 of their better players. Dolphins, I think you got to be afraid to play them while Tua is healthy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very happy to see that Tua picked up kind of where he left off when he was still healthy. I mean, we remember the early part of the NFL season last year, the Dolphins were absolutely dominant, so was Tua. I mean, they were throwing for 400 yards like it was nothing, and it was insane. And since that point, the defense has gotten better. The offense has really continued to thrive. They have Teron Armstead. When he's back, will help with the pass rush as well and give Tua even more time. But really, it's probably the most perfect marriage I can see in the NFL between quarterback and scheme and and head coach. Like we've seen guys, Sean McVay made Jared Goff look good. He got Matt Stafford to Super Bowl. But what Mike McDaniel has been able to do and maximize Tua is nothing. It's amazing to watch. Tua looks like an absolute Hall of Famer out there, and not that Tua isn't a great quarterback in his own right, but the scheme is just so well done, and it shows you that a lot of offensive coaches, a lot of just coaches in the NFL do not scheme as well as Mike McDaniel's does week in and week out. I mean, he schemes guys open. He makes the throws easier for Tua. Tua has great accuracy, but it's nice to see a coach that makes it a little easier sometimes on his quarterback to make plays and to be the best quarterback he can be, which is, you know, you can talk about if he puts on performances like this the entire season. You can argue possibly best quarterback in the NFL kind of tier. If again, that's a lot, but you put up performances like this, he stays healthy. Find me an argument and a debate why he can't be talked about as one of the absolute top quarterbacks in the NFL. But that doesn't mean just because you have the best quarterback that you just leave him out there to fucking figure it out. That's one of the biggest things you'll talk about with the Bengals offense and Joe Burrow is, I mean, Zach Taylor seems like he's a great locker room guy, and not to like make this all about the Bengals, but there's different coaches out there. There are guys that are locker room guys, and there are guys that are really X and O guys, and there's a rare quality where they have both. Mike McDaniel seems to be a guy the locker room loves, and is a guy who knows how to scheme an offense and does it, almost flawlessly, better than anybody I see in the NFL. And that's when the McVays, the Shanahans. You can talk about those guys, and then they look great. But Mike McDaniel's is doing it better, and somebody who nobody ever heard of until probably 3 years ago. So, I mean, he's great. It's fun to watch the Dolphins. The Dolphins are probably the most fun team in the NFL to watch if you're just a general NFL, observer. And it's just Tua upright. If Tua stays healthy, the Dolphins could be the number one seed. Like, it's that simple. They already have it up. The Bills not look good, and these other teams have kind of really, week one, none of the top teams in the AFC, all top three seeds in the AFC last year, lost their first game. And that's huge. And like, I know it seems like, oh, it's just one game. It's a, 17 game season, but ultimately each game matters, especially when you're talking about home field advantage. So Dolphins get an early lead. They look good. Can they keep Tua upright the entire year? They have guys in place. They signed Van Armstead. They want their quarterback to stay healthy, and they're going to do everything they can. If he does, the Dolphins are scary and can play against any team in the NFL. The Chargers, I mean, their offense was good. It's just, again, defense did not step up when they need to, and they lost another close game, and it just keeps happening. How many more games are the Chargers going to blow and lose by possession? Like, it's that close. They're a good team. They're a team that everyone keeps waiting for them to take that forward to go. The Chargers are, a top 3 team in the league or a top 5 team. And they don't. They just are always this team. No matter, it seems like, how much talent they've got, the more you think the Chargers are going to dominate. They just can't win a game. They end up in a dogfight and just can't pull it out at the end. So you hate to see it. You hate to see it for Justin Herbert because, I mean, if they end up being a team that wins, go 9-8, 10-7, get bounced out of the first round of the playoffs again, I mean, I don't know what else to really say or, say what they can fix besides just blowing up the team because the coaching is just not there.
I'm with you, and I think maybe the planning of the team isn't there either. Like, yeah, they got some free agents on defense. We know they have Khalil Mack, and they got J.C. Jackson, who did not look like he did before his injury in this game, really give up some big plays. But, like, they used their first-round pick on a receiver, and Quentin Johnston did not have the best game. It doesn't mean this is an indictment on his full career, but, like, fix that defense, man. Like, I don't know. It's just you give up all those points last year to the Jaguars. The Chargers are the team where I think I need to see it to believe it. I think a lot of people do too before, like, you can even pick them to advance in the playoffs. Like, best case scenario, they get this, the first wild card this year. They don't beat the Chiefs. We'll just say that's the best realistic scenario for right now. Things could change. and they go up against one of the division winners. I mean, yeah, if they somehow match up with the team who wins the AFC South, maybe they have a chance. But they've already played the Jaguars last year, and we saw what happened. So I'm with you. The Chargers have some work to do, but see, I'm more excited that everyone's on the 2-on train now. Let's just get it rolling. I'm excited for the season for him. I've been a big fan of him just because, he has that accuracy. I think people get doubts because of the injuries, and I think there should be some doubt, but I think people have gone a little bit overboard with it, and we'll see how they do. It's going to be a fun team to watch. Like you said, we talked about some of the other teams being like the last on your Sunday ticket watch list. The Dolphins every week are number one on your Sunday ticket watch list, besides this week because they're playing the Patriots on Sunday Night Football and won't be on that, but that's just something to note for the future. Let's go to a game that completely shocked me, Cease. We have the Rams beating the Seahawks 30-13. There was no Cooper Kupp in this game. The Rams had traded away Jalen Ramsey. It's not the team that won the Super Bowl a couple years ago. It's different, but Matt Stafford looked healthy. He was incredible. He was throwing to guys like Tutu Atwell, who's one of the smallest players in the league, and Puka Nacua, who was a fifth-round draft pick. And they were able to get the win 30-13. The Seahawks, I still think they're a good team. I mean, everything from their team last year is back. They improved on that when they got Devon Witherspoon and Jackson Smith and Jigba this year in the draft. I don't know. The Rams just looked really good. Sean McVay pulled these guys out of nowhere, and they won 30-13. Doesn't mean the whole season's going to go that way. They had a whole offseason to prepare. These two teams frequently struggle with each other. At times where one team's good, they struggle with the other one. But I don't know. This was a out-of-nowhere game for me.
Yeah, I mean, offense, Sean McVay schemed a hell of a game with people no one really thought were worth anything. Puka Nacua looked like Cooper Kupp. Like, that's what it looked like. And I'm just sitting there and I'm like, is Cooper Kupp actually that good? Is Sean McVay just find a guy who's kind of shifty, not necessarily fast or gigantic, but just runs a route well and is able to make a guy miss every once in a while? Is that all it is? But Sean McVay, he took advantage of a Seahawks team that's honestly, it's good on the perimeters, but it's weak on the inside, it feels like at times. And, especially around the middle of the field. And Sean McVay really took advantage of that. Bobby Wagner did not look that great in his return to the Seahawks. And then, Aaron Donald just absolutely blew up the middle of the Rams or of the Seahawks offensive line. Just blew them up like that. It's just what happened. Like, Geno Smith didn't have any time to get in rhythm. The offensive line, for as well as it improved last year and those rookies played really well. Aaron Donald, I don't know, maybe he just is healthy right now and isn't beat down by the season, but he looked completely unstoppable. He wrecked that entire game for them. Like, the Seahawks did not have an answer for it, and that's why people say Aaron Donald's the best player in the NFL. And I 100% see why. And, he plays like that, this season. The Rams can be in talks to get a wild card. I don't think they're going to be the 49ers right now. I don't think this scheming is going to work forever because I think more people will figure out what Sean McVay is doing as the season progresses. But, they got off to a hell of a start. And, Pete Carroll's offense and defense, they weren't ready for it, and they weren't able to mask their weaknesses at all. And it just caused the entire game to get kind of upended.
Yeah, I'll always remember for the rest of my life the clip we got of Aaron Donald being able to rush free on Geno Smith. He says, "Oh my God," and you hear it on the microphone. It's the most relatable thing you'll ever hear a quarterback say. He just threw it away. But if these guys, are healthy and McVay can dial up some plays, it'll be good. And getting Cooper Kupp back, if they do, hamstring injuries sometimes linger, could be a huge boost to this team. It could change up the NFC playoff structure. As you said, they could be a wild card this year. Sunday Night Football ceased. The Cowboys beat the Giants 40-0. Whooped them. It was a bad weather game. There was a special teams touchdown, defensive touchdowns. If you had Dallas offensive players who weren't named Tony Pollard, you're probably mad. It's not the greatest games for their other guys. Dak Prescott, 143 yards. They just didn't need to do anything. They just, ran the ball and, win a rain game, that's what you should do, to get the lead and run the ball. So I will say, if I'm the Giants, very bad performance, but it was raining a lot. Just like I'll sell the Bengals, just burn the tape and move on. You're not going to figure out anything from this. I've heard from other podcasts that maybe Brian Dable had a party the Saturday night, the night before the game. Maybe that got in his head. I don't know. Coaches, does it affect players as much as players do? I don't know, but just burn the tape. Just move on. I don't know. I don't think the Giants are a bad team. I don't think Brian Dable's a bad coach. Just forget about it. This is just a juggernaut who got up early and was able to run away with it, partially due to the weather.
Yeah, I mean, it was just a team where, I mean, the Giants, I know we talked about this in the season preview last week, did they get any better than last year? I mean, we saw a team that got off to a hot start. Brian Dable is a great coach and can scheme with the best of them and really maximize the talent on this roster. But it doesn't feel like the roster got any more talented, which is a big question mark. And I mean, when a team that the rain and stuff like that is causing things to go awry, it's harder for scheme to really work that well because I mean their scheme is. I mean, this is just football. This is just big guys going out there and hitting each other when it's pouring down rain like that. It's hard to have much more of an offense than that. And Daniel Jones did not look good. I mean, any quarterback probably would have struggled in that. Dak didn't have a good game. It's just like you said, the Cowboys made some good defensive plays early on, capitalized on all those drives, and Tony Pollard looked. I mean, again, the Cowboys are a really good NFC team. Some people, think they could be the best team in the NFC, and they showed it in this game. Now, am I selling everything on the Giants? Do I think they're going to they're going to go 5-12 or something? No. I think they go exactly where, I think the win total is 7.5. And I think they're a team, again, that goes right around that 500 mark and, kind of comes back to earth because they're not playing as soft of a schedule as they did last year. And they really overachieved based off the scheming that Brian Dable was able to do and to exploit things that the NFL is going to catch up on this year. Daniel Jones, I don't think, is a long-term answer. They didn't really have a choice. And the receiver core and the defense, everything looks exact same. And it's one of those games that you watch and you're like, they played a more talented team that was able to overcome a situation because they are bigger and faster than them.
Absolutely. And like I said earlier, Cease, I think these top teams in the NFC really proved themselves in week one in a way that the top teams in the AFC did not. So you could be seeing a little bit more of a wacky situation in the AFC where there's more teams that are good, whereas the NFC, these teams might be fighting for first-round buys with 13-ish wins, 14 wins at the end of the season. So we'll see how that all goes down. Now, Cease, let's go to the Monday night game. This might be one of the more, I don't want to say it to be insensitive in Aaron Rodgers' injury, but one of the more interesting games I think we've seen on Monday Night Football in quite some time. I'm just going to kind of go down the list here. Jets fans excited, Aaron Rodgers, possible Super Bowl. The defense is good. They have Aaron Rodgers. Hard Knocks is there. Things go well. He gets hurt within, 45 seconds, I think, 75 seconds, whatever the number is. Four plays. He goes down. Zach Wilson comes in. Also in this game, the Josh Allen plays so bad that some people on Twitter are accusing him of shaving points. I don't think that's the case. I think he just played really bad, but that's how bad he played. A defensive player for the Jets had 3 interceptions, Jordan Whitehead, as a result of the Josh Allen interceptions. Zach Wilson comes into the game. He leads a comeback attempt. Garrett Wilson has one of the craziest catches you will ever see to help them tie the game up, and that is the bats it with one hand to himself and then catches it, showing his immense talent. And on top of that, we go to overtime, and we have a walk-off punt return TV by Xavier Gibson, who was a Hard Knocks star, and looks like the punter doesn't want any part of him, just jukes right by him, and the Jets get the win after all of that. That is a summation of what happened. It was poorly played football until the end of the second half, really. I mean, end of the fourth quarter. But it was such a interesting game with so many different things happening. I struggle to say the word fun because Rodgers got hurt, but it was so fun and weird that, man, I mean, Monday Night Football might be back this year, C's. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, it's one of the best Monday Night Football games I've seen in a while. And you want to talk about NFL being scripted? I mean, that was a hell of a roller coaster. I mean, one of the best 3 hours of just sports media you've seen with just the ups and downs and so many storylines going on. I was laughing because that image of that punter in overtime trying to tackle Xavier Gibson. If you want to call it that. I mean, I've never seen, I don't know how he thought this would work. I don't know if he thought it'd make him look better, but I've never seen a human being jump directly up vertically into the air to then tackle someone 2 feet to the right. And then in the tackling process, just shoves them while midair. Like, I've never seen anything quite like that. I've seen punters, kind of just try to push somebody a little bit. I've never seen a guy literally jump directly in the air to then like hit them. Where that, I mean, I'm not a physicist here, but I feel like you have more power, when you're able to push off the ground with gravity, and then maybe if he like launched himself into him, it would have made sense, or maybe that's what he was trying to do, and it just was so horribly done. But holy crap, that replay I've watched probably 10 times now. Just watching him just literally just jump and just like I love when punters and kickers make the tackle. I love when they just lay somebody out or just go for the legs and at least slow a guy down. But holy crap, it was just like a punter's going, no one else is going to catch him. I'm not getting hurt, but I got to pretend that I didn't run out of the way. So that was good. Now to the actual game. Aaron Rodgers getting. I mean, the Jet season virtually over. Like, they can make the playoffs if they have a historically good defense and the defense well as they did, and Breece Hall and that offensive running game plays well. Sure, I mean, I've seen worse wild card teams make. However, it's competitive out there, and I don't know how well Zach Wilson is going to play the rest of the season. It's like the Jets teams we've seen over the last couple of years, right? And no, the defense is better, and that's why I'm saying, there's an outside shot. Maybe they make the playoffs somehow. But, I mean, the season was kind of a, Super Bowl or bust kind of thing, not let's make the playoffs and lose in the first round. Because that's what we kind of saw with what we saw would be kind of the ceiling if the Jets made the playoffs, so they'd be probably an early out because of what we've seen with Aaron Rodgers the last couple of years. But now, I mean, Zach Wilson is, if he takes some magical step, sure. And hats off to Nathaniel Hackett if they manage to do that. But I do like how this team plays hard, and I do love watching this defense. And this is a aggressive defense, not just a defense that's going to, hold you back from points. This is a team that's going to score on you and, like, make you regret everything you did that day. If you came in thinking this was going to be an easy win against the Jets, you're going to be sorely mistaken, and then you're going to look like an idiot sometimes. Because I don't know what the hell happened to Josh Allen. I think he just went, I'm going to win this game, and just stopped caring. I mean, he looked like every flaw, and we've talked about Josh Allen has had these games, not as much recently in the last 2 years, where he just is everything we talked about in his draft profile coming to fruition in just like play after play, where you're just like, why are you throwing this ball? Why? Like, why are you trying to do this big 40, 50-yard play? You're playing a Jets team that doesn't have a quarterback. Like, you don't need to score 40 points against them. You just need to have a good drive and not give away points. Like, we're talking 3 picks by the same guy. The safety who's over the top. That means that Josh Allen just isn't straight up looking. He's not looking off the safety, and he's not reading the defense at all. He's just throwing a ball up thinking, oh, it's going to be so cool when I get this 40-yard bomb, and just watching a guy just close in on it that he just missed. And if that's the offense that Josh Allen plays, and I don't think that's what's going to happen, but if this is kind of what we're going to see a little bit more of, careless Josh Allen like we saw before Brian Dable worked with him and developed him, I don't know where the Bills look, because the run defense looks soft. Their running game is very average, and teams are just keying in on Stephon Diggs. That's what happens. And if that's what's going to keep happening and Josh Allen's going to keep turning over the ball, this Bills team is in trouble. They're talented enough, they're going to make the playoffs. But, I mean, Dolphins are playing the way they are. You're already lost a divisional game. And, you're going to have to play the Jets again, who you've typically matched up poor against. And same thing with the Patriots. After this week, I'm not picking them to really be a favorite in the AFC right now. They got to figure some stuff out with their team. And it was an embarrassing loss for a team that had everything going for him pretty much through most 3 quarters of the game. So there's really no excuse for the loss.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think you kind of alluded to this, Cease. Like, I think this maybe speaks to the impact of coaching in the NFL. Like, Josh Allen was developed so well by Brian Dable. And the last 2 years, it's been like he's gone back to this quarterback at times where it's just he makes the dumb decisions he made when he was at Wyoming that we listed when the draft came around. And I wanted to think that the end of last year was maybe the injury because he started off the year hot, but maybe it's a little bit more than just the injury. So I think there's also something to take a note with the way the league is playing defense. We've seen this when as Bengals fans against Joe Burrow, and I think Chiefs fans have seen this too. Teams are, I think ESPN's Brooke Pryor wrote a story about this today or yesterday or something, so just go check it out. But they're running like cover 3 and cover 4. They're trying to stop the deep pass. They are making these talented quarterbacks dink and dunk on these drives and sustain these long drives. And if you're Josh Allen and you keep on taking these shots downfield, you're going to be putting the ball in more danger. So it's not just that maybe Brian Dable is left and he's not developing, but also the defenses have changed to make it like, hey, you can't sustain a 15-play drive and score a touchdown. You're the guy who only makes the deep throws. So if you want to be successful, you have to just dink and dunk and take what the defense gives you, and you have to be patient and just do it. And it's tough. I get it because mistakes happen and you can't be perfect, but I saw a stat today that the person who threw for the most passes past 15 yards was Tua, and Tua is not a guy who has the strongest arm. He just takes what the defense gives him, and I think a lot of time the defense does give him that because A, his players are faster and they get behind the defense, and B, maybe they underestimate his ability to throw deep. So I'm with you. I think Josh Allen needs to kind of change what he's doing in terms of taking the checkdowns, taking what's open for the Bills to get to where they want to be. It's still all the amount of time to get there. Von Miller's going to come off the IR soon, and they'll have plenty of talent to do it, but just some kind of X's and O's things there that they might need to figure out. All right, so that is our recap of Week 1. We apologize to anyone. We try to go in depth with these teams. We have an hour and a half, to go over 32 teams, and not enough teams suck yet where we can just say, hey, we don't have much to say. So that's what happens. We're going to go to Week 2 now with our picks. We actually have a decent Thursday Night Football game, C's, at least based on last year. These are 2 playoff teams. Minnesota Vikings at the Philadelphia Eagles. Eagles are favored by 7.
Give me the Eagles to win, but I'm taking the Vikings with the points. This is just, I feel like, this is overreaction week. A lot of gamblers will talk about this, where people freak out after Week 1 and just start throwing lines out there that don't necessarily. Minnesota had a bad loss to the Bucs, 100%. I agree with that. Their defense is not good, but Kirk Cousins and the Vikings have enough offensive fire that hopefully, a line of 7 I think is a little high. If you said it was 5.5, I'd go sure. But you're telling me the line is just a whole touchdown. I'm gonna pick the Vikings with the points because I think they can play it within a touchdown.
I'm with you. I think the overreaction is going to get to people this week in terms of the spreads. I'm going Vikings against the spread here. Eagles to win outright, but the Vikings to win against the spread. Their offense is still high powered. The Eagles just came off a physical game against the Patriots. Like you said, if it was 5.5, 6, maybe I'd change my mind. But right now it's 7, and we're going to go with it. So I'm going to go Vikings against the spread, Eagles to win. All right, Sunday afternoon, we have the Seahawks at the Detroit Lions. The Lions are favored by 5 points. Important to note, Cease, that the Seahawks tackles are not healthy. I think Abraham Lucas was just placed on the IR, and Charles Cross probably won't play. So that's probably why the line lies where it does.
Yeah, with that information in, I would say 5 points again would be kind of an overreaction based off this Chiefs win. The Lions are a good football team, but they're not elite, and these Dan Campbell teams have shown that they can lose close games and kind of teams back in. But that being said, I'm going for the Lions to win, especially at home. This is going to be one of the biggest home openers for them in probably 20 years, honestly. Since the Matt Stafford and Dominican Sue days where, they start off 5-0, things like that. They're having, I think Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is having them wear these ski masks, these blue ski masks he posted online, and they sold out in like 10 minutes on Amazon. So that Detroit crowd is going to be crazy this week, like absolutely insane. And you're gonna talk about like I know Detroit's not known for having this home field advantage, but we're talking about a fan base who's been starved of a team with any talent for so long that they are fucking hyped. Like, and they're gonna go in, and if the Lions don't like give up a bunch of early points to Seahawks, this crowd is gonna be a huge factor in this game. And the Seahawks are having to travel from the West Coast to go to this hostile team. My only worry is that the Lions read their press clippings, think they beat the Super Bowl champions, and that goes from there. But Dan Campbell seems like a guy who isn't going to let that happen. I think the Lions win this game. I think with both tackles out for the Seahawks, that's going to be very hard, even though the Lions' pass rush isn't elite. But they looked decently good against Pat Mahomes last week, and I'm going to give it to them. I think the Lions will win and cover with all that information we've got.
I'm going Lions to win, but I'm going to take Seahawks against the spread. The reason being, I think the Seahawks were really kind of affected by McVay's scheme with all offseason to scheme for it, and with Aaron Donald blowing things up. Aiden Hutchinson looked really good against the Chiefs. He's just not Aaron Donald. So I want to see if this Lions defense can hold up again against Seahawks, who have way better weapons, and see if Geno Smith is back. I'm going to go with the safe thing here. I think Lions win by about a field goal. So Lions, Seahawks against the spread. Next one up, we have the Los Angeles Chargers traveling to take on the Tennessee Titans. The Chargers are favored by 3 points on the road, Cease.
Chargers should win and cover this game, like 100%. If they don't, I'm really concerned. Again, it's a road game. That's one of the things I'm most concerned with. But the Titans do not look good. They are not a good football team. They are average at best. The Chargers have a much better roster, and they have a much better quarterback, which means more in the modern NFL than anything. Titans are only going to win this game if Derrick Henry literally just goes off and controls the ball. And that doesn't happen early in the season usually with the Titans offense. And there's nothing I saw last week to believe that. So Chargers should win and cover this one.
Right, Chargers are gonna do something that, like, one of my favorite college football analysts, Josh Pate, says. They're in like wounded animal mode here. They just lost a tough game to the Dolphins. They're like a bunch of these other 0-1 teams in the AFC. You don't want to go down to 0-2. So I think they're going to go on the road and win and cover. They're going to take care of business. Justin Herbert's going to do his thing. And the Titans just don't have that firepower. Ryan Tannehill isn't that great of a quarterback to keep up. So I think the Chargers go on the road and take care of business. Next up, we have the Kansas City Chiefs at the Jacksonville Jaguars. We all remember the AFC divisional round game last year. That was a lot of fun. Chiefs are favored by 3.5 on the road.
I think that's fair. I'm going to go the Chiefs to win and cover here. I think the Chiefs are in a different class than the Jaguars are. I think Trevor Lawrence has definitely taken some steps forward, and I think there were definitely some questions about the Chiefs from last week. But they have Chris Jones back. Travis Kelce, I believe, should be back in this game. And, the Jaguars just played a really close game against the Colts team that isn't that great. And I get the divisional game. But I think the Chiefs and Pat Mahomes are better. And I got to think that, 3.5 points right over that field goal margin, I think they can win by 4 points. I do believe that pretty well. So Chiefs to win and cover.
Yeah, extra time to prepare for this one with Andy Reid. I'll take that any day. Patrick Mahomes is back. I think if Travis Kelce plays, Patrick Mahomes will be back to just dominating. He just won't have to rely on the receivers as much. That will be the difference. And as you mentioned, Chris Jones is back. Jacksonville, I think, will play him close for most of the game, but I think the Chiefs might win by a touchdown in the end. Next up, we have the Green Bay Packers at the Atlanta Falcons. The Packers are currently favored by 1 point on the road.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Packers to win and cover. Mostly because I don't trust this Falcons team. I don't trust their offense, and their defense played better, but I think that again, the Packers are kind of set up for success against another middling team. They have an elite offensive line. They have role players on defense, and they have a strong run game. Everything that is a young quarterback's best friend. I think it'll be close, but I think they'll be able to beat Atlanta on the road, and it's pretty much a pick'em. Yeah, give me Packers to win cover.
I'll go Falcons in this one. I think just having the home game will be good. Also, I don't want to overreact to the Packers' Week 1 performance quite yet. They have a talented roster. I want to see more of Jordan Love, and a lot of his passing yards came from wide open receivers and broken coverage. Let's see if a Falcons defense, which is better than the Bears, which never thought I'd say those words if growing up with the Bears having Brian Urlacher and Peanut Tillman and all them, like I never thought I'd say the Falcons defense is better than them, but let's see what they do on the road again. Second straight road game for them against a better defense and a better offensive line than the Bears have. I'm not a big fan of Arthur Smith, but I think if they run the ball and take care of it, things could be different than what the Bears did to the Packers. So I'll take the Falcons to defend their home turf, win as home underdogs. All right, next one up, we have the Baltimore Ravens at the Cincinnati Bengals. Cease. The Bengals are currently favored by 3.5 points.
I'm going to go with the Bengals to win and cover. 3.5. I wish it was close. I wish it was 3, but again, that's within the margin of error enough where I think a big part of this is two things. One, I think the Bengals offense will look much better, obviously, just by nature of the weather not being as horrible as it was. Just check the forecast before this. It should be good. It should be, at most, maybe we see a couple clouds in the sky. Love of God. Cleveland weather patterns. Why don't go there for? But I think the Bengals will automatically play better. They've played well historically against the Ravens, and the Ravens just got the crap beat out of them when it comes to injuries. They obviously won the game and won against the Texans pretty handily, but man, talk about some injuries just to catch you after one. I mean, we got two guys on offensive line that might not play. We've got Marlon Humphrey's their top corner and one of the better corners in the NFL, may not play, and if he does, he's not going to be 100%. Marcus Williams is probably out. J.K. Dobbins just went down. That's a lot to recover from, in 1 week. It's a lot to figure out who's going to start, who's going to play against a Bengals team that, knock on wood, came out relatively unscathed compared to some teams in the league. Now, obviously, they didn't really do much to warrant taking much of a risk of any kind, and they kind of pulled out in the fourth quarter. They're coming in a better condition than the Ravens are. And they're a team, again, that's 0-1. It's their home opener. Everyone is pretty pissed about what happened last week, and I think the offense is able to show up, and I think the defense will be able to do some things against the hobbled off the Ravens.
Yeah, I'm going the Bengals to win and cover as well. As I mentioned before, their teams, the more you lose, the more you get desperate. Yes, everyone else kind of lost on the top of the AFC, but you're going to want to have this one. You don't want to go down to 0-2 if you're the Bengals, especially having a division loss to the Ravens. Ravens are banged up. I think the Bengals' offense, as you said, will be more efficient. That is the name of the game there. That defense has historically done well against Lamar Jackson. I am interested to see how this new offense will operate for the Ravens, as I still don't think we got a full picture in Week 1. But I'll take the Bengals to win and cover. Again, not trying to overreact to Week 1 here, and just taking what we think we know about these teams until they really prove it this season. And I think the Bengals, we all expect to still be a good team and to be able to defend their home turf. Next one up, we have the Chicago Bears at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Obviously, a rough start to the Bears to their season. Buccaneers got a surprise win, and now the Buccaneers are favored by 2.5 points.
Give me the Buccaneers to win and cover. I never thought I'd say that this season. But, yeah, the Bears looked horrible. And I get, again, overreaction week, but shit. I mean, if they have broken coverages like they get against the Packers, Mike Evans and my fantasy team are going to have another great day. So I foresee that happening. Baker loves that. Just toss it, launch it down the field to a big receiver. It's one of his Cleveland specials. Doesn't always work out, but, I mean, he can roll out of the pocket and chuck it downfield a couple times to get them in this game. And I mean, Justin Fields, I'm hoping puts up a better showing, and it seems like I'm hoping this doesn't have to be like last year where it was Justin Fields is putting up 450 yards of all-purpose offense, almost 500, and they're still losing games because the team's so bad. But it's starting to look like that's going to be the Bears we see again this year, and I'm just hoping Justin Fields stays healthy.
Yeah, I feel similarly there. I have the same pick. I have Buccaneers winning and covering. I think this is more about the context of things. You're right. Like, I think the Bears are still like they are last year. The offensive line is struggling. Tevin Jenkins is still out. Darnell Wright's a rookie at right tackle who was drafted a little bit early for my taste, if you remember from the draft show, but that's okay. And, the defense is still, like I said, struggling. Tampa Bay, Baker Mayfield, we both kind of sat here and were like, why is Cleveland giving up on him? It, makes no sense. He was injured this year, goes to Carolina. Carolina is not in a position to have a quarterback really come in and be a star or even be successful right now with how bad that offensive line is. We saw Bryce Young struggle in his opener, and he's number one overall pick, just like Baker was. Then Baker goes to the Rams and has a really good time with Sean McVay. I think he could be a decent quarterback. He's never going to be great. He can be a decent quarterback in this league, especially when you have Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. So I'm going to take the Buccaneers to win and cover based on all of that. Now, you're right. What could make this pick wrong is just Justin Fields going nuclear and just running the ball, throwing the ball over the field. But Luke Getsy, their offensive coordinator, really kind of showed that he wasn't going to let Justin Fields run as much and wasn't going to do things to make him dynamic. And also, if you're on Twitter, there's a big conspiracy out there that Chase Claypool is quiet quitting right now. So I don't think it's going to happen. But Buccaneers win and cover. All right, Las Vegas Raiders at the Buffalo Bills is the next one up. Cease, earlier in the week, the line was 9.5. I'm just double checking. Yes, it's still 9.5 in favor of Buffalo at home.
Bills are gonna win it. That's an easy one. That's give me the Bills to cover it. I mean, again, I don't want to overreact. The Raiders team sucks, especially their defense. It's bad. And this is the kind of defense that's so bad, Josh Allen can probably get away with some of the stupid shit he's going to throw. So there's not too much more to it than I know the Bills have a lot more talent than the Raiders. The Raiders look better. But ultimately, the Bills, as bad as they looked at times, they just look sloppy. They don't look like they have no talent. It just looks like they just kind of just didn't care. They thought Aaron Rodgers went down. They thought they had the game in the bag, and then Josh Allen just kind of turned over the ball until they were out of it. So I'll pick the Bills to win and cover. I'm staying away from this line right now, but it's going to be that high. If it was 7, I'd take it and we have no qualms. But I mean, I don't expect the Raiders to get that many points. So give me the Bills to win and cover.
I'm with you. Definitely not betting on this one, but my pick is the Bills to win and the Raiders with the points here because it's a big spread for a team, especially who just lost and is coming off a short week. I know they're going home and have home field advantage, but I think the Raiders are bad, but we've seen bad teams cover spreads like this a lot. The Bills win by a touchdown and, maybe have control of the game the whole way, but they win by a touchdown. So that's how it goes. Raiders still have playmakers. We'll see. Jacoby Myers and Devontae Adams may or may not play. That could definitely affect how things go here. But for the time being, I'll take the points. Again, not trying to overreact to week 1 too much. I think the Bills are a much better team, but 9.5 is a big spread. The last of the 1 p.m. Eastern game sees the Indianapolis Colts at the Houston Texans. It is a divisional matchup. It is C.J. Stroud versus Anthony Richardson, 2 rookie quarterbacks, and the Colts are favored by 1 point on the road.
Give me the Colts to win and cover. Houston's roster just looks bad. I think C.J. Stroud will have a better game this week than he had against the Ravens. But I liked what I saw out of Anthony Richardson. I liked how they used his athleticism. I think that'll be a big key in this game as well. And I think the Colts eke out a win against Houston.
I did too. Colts to win and cover on the road here. This is a lot because of Anthony Richardson's ability to run the ball, and also the Colts defense is just a little bit more advanced than the Texans. Texans still have a lot of young developing players. I think they can get the win and cover on the road. Sunday evening games now cease. We have the New York Giants at the Arizona Cardinals. The Giants are favored by 5 points.
Yep. Giants, I think, bounce back in a big way in this one. I think they'll win and cover. It's a road game out to Arizona, which kind of sucks, but I mean, I think they have more talent, and more importantly, I think they have much better coaching that will help them win this game pretty handily.
Yeah, Jonathan Gannon could try to get everyone pumped up by asking if they're taking the bus or whatever. It's not going to work. So I'm going to take Giants to cover. I think actually it's now 5.5. I don't care. I'm taking Giants to cover. I'm picking against the Cardinals a lot this year. They have some okay players, but you could probably count them on less than one hand if you needed to. So Giants need a bounce back game. Again, another team that made the playoffs lost week 1, wants to bounce back. This is a perfect opportunity to do so. San Francisco 49ers at the Los Angeles Rams. The 49ers are favored by 8 points on the road.
I'm going to go 49ers to win this game. I'm going to go the Rams to cover, though. I mean, 8 points, anything outside a touchdown against the 49ers team that traditionally isn't a high-scoring affair. They played really well against the Steelers, obviously. But the Rams played really well against the Seahawks. And Sean McVay schemed well, and this is two teams that know each other and traditionally play close games. So, I mean, 8 points, saying you're going to win by more than a touchdown, especially if Shanahan just goes kind of more conservative or goes, I want to control possession, and just runs the clock down. I mean, that could very well happen with these teams. Or Sean McVay can get it within one possession. Like, I totally believe that. So give me the 49ers to win, but I got to take the points for the Rams.
Same pick for me. 49ers to win. Give me the points with the Rams here. 49ers, as you mentioned, not a team that's going to blow out a lot of teams. Usually, I mean, it did week 1, but not usually. That's just how they operate. They're going to run the ball and take advantage of that. And the Rams, they're prepared for the 49ers. I think Sean McVay is ready to get back to competing in this division. So I'll take the Rams. It looks like Matt Stafford is back. So I'll take the Rams against the points. The New York Jets at the Dallas Cowboys is up next. It was supposed to be, I think, the big game of the week with the Cowboys versus Aaron Rodgers and all the history that's been had there. But now it's a 9-point spread for the Cowboys, Cease.
I think that's fair. I'll go the Cowboys to win and cover here. The Cowboys look really good. The only thing that worries me about this is the Jets defense is really good. Like, people aren't going to hang, Cowboys aren't going to hang 40 points on this team. I think they'll hang probably closer to 28 to 31 points, right there. I think it's the sweet spot Dallas needs to be at. Now, will the Jets, especially against Micah Parsons and that Cowboys defense, especially with a questionable offensive line and Zach Wilson starting, I mean, I don't see a world where they score more than 14 to 17 points. So that being said, that's enough to cover that kind of 28 prediction for the Cowboys. So I'm going to go to the Cowboys to win and cover. Some big spreads early on, and the Jets will surprise some people at times because they don't really have as much of a choice of winning, but this is an energized team, at least so far. I think Robert Saleh is going to have the team play hard and be excited about being there every week. And he's a defensive coach, and that defense is going to continue to bring it, and the offense is going to play kind of a strong, heavy run game, control the game, and keep them in it for a long time into the fourth quarter and see what happens.
Yeah, I'm going Cowboys to win and cover. This line would be different if Aaron Rodgers was here, so I don't know what the pick would be. But if we saw what the Cowboys' defensive line did to the Giants, imagine what it's going to do to the Jets. The Giants might be worse than the Jets, but either way, I mean, Zach Wilson and the Jets, that pressure is going to mean more getting to him than it would maybe getting to Aaron Rodgers, who's used to dealing with a lot of pressure. So I'm going to go Cowboys to win and cover. They're not going to score 40, but that defense can sure maybe get a pick 6 or 2, and Zach Wilson may not be seeing ghosts. Whatever's worse than ghosts, he might be seeing with this defense coming at him. So we'll see what happens there. Washington Commanders at the Denver Broncos. The Broncos are favored by 3.5 points, Cease.
Talk about a game to not put on your television. Give me 3.5.
Yep.
Give me the Broncos to win because it's at Mile High. Give me the Commanders. I'm splitting it. Commanders, the points. I mean, it's a gross game. Broncos still have a good defense. Mile High is a hard place to still play. Where is Sam Howell at? Is he good yet? Is he not? I mean, I think the Commanders will play it very close. Honestly, I want the line to be lower because I would bet on it, but Mile High is the place, and I think the Broncos, if Russell Wilson plays like he did last week, will be in a place where they'll be able to win it in a close one.
Yeah, I'm going Broncos to win and cover. Much like last week with the Broncos game, I just basically said both these teams stink, and I'm taking the Raiders because I don't know. I thought they had something on the Broncos. They have won 7 straight. This week, I'm going with the Broncos. I don't know. Both these teams stink. I think Broncos will defend their home turf. I want to see Sam Howell prove it. Yes, Russell Wilson, I'm not really sure on. but I'll go to win by more than a field goal. Maybe Sean Payton's aggressiveness comes back a little bit this week, as it started to in week 1. All right, the Sunday Night Football game, Cease. We have the Miami Dolphins at the New England Patriots. The Dolphins are favored by 3 on the road.
Give me Tua. Tua on is full, alive and well. After what I just saw against the Chargers, I got to pick the Dolphins to win and cover 3 points. I mean, I think this is going to be another one where Tua puts up some points, and I'm interested to see how Tua goes against Bill Belichick, and because he is a good guy. The defense looked much better for New England, and I think he can scheme as well as Mike Daniel can scheme offense. I know Bill Belichick can scheme defense, so we'll see there. I just don't see Mac Jones and offense be able to do much against the Dolphins team.
I'm with you. Dolphins to win and cover. A lot of this is because of Tua. He's played well against the Patriots in his career. I think Bill Belichick will scheme him maybe better than he has in the past now that he knows what he's getting against Tua and this fast wide receiver room for the Dolphins. But just a more talented team from top to bottom. So I'm going to go Dolphins to win and cover on the road. Monday Night Football, we have 2 games on Monday night this week, Cease. This will be happening for this week and also for week 3, so to make it a little bit more interesting for us. We have the New Orleans Saints at the Carolina Panthers. The Saints are favored by 3 on the road.
Yeah, give me the Saints to win and cover. I mean, it's a team that is structured and has, kind of continuity and knows how to play together. And Carolina's young and just did not show anything in week 1 to make me believe they are going to beat the Saints.
Yep, same thing for me. Saints to win and cover. I think the offensive line for the Panthers is the major issue here. I think the Saints defense can take advantage of that and get the win on the road. The last game of the week, Cease, we have the Cleveland Browns at the Pittsburgh Steelers. In this one, the Browns are favored by 2.5 on the road.
It's a surprising line, honestly. I think people are worried about the Steelers versus Browns. You want to talk about teams, the Browns don't do well against the Steelers traditionally. I think that's what's playing a lot into this. I think Deshaun Watson still didn't play well. It's the rain. Nobody played well. I mean, Joe, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, looked awful. So it's hard to really say Deshaun Watson didn't look good and make that mean something. But I'm not convinced Deshaun Watson's taken a step forward. I mean, sure, he can use his feet. He could do that last year, too. It's more about can he make the passes when he needs to. I don't know, but, I mean, that defense of the Browns comes to play like they did last week. I think the Steelers struggle just like they did against the 49ers. I think Nick Chubb will be able to do enough to win this game. So I'm going with the Browns to win and cover.
I'm going with the Steelers at home. Again, this is more about me telling myself not to freak out about the week 1 results. I still have my doubts about the Browns, and that's being Deshaun Watson mainly, and maybe that the defense is really going to be as good as they looked in week 1. But also the Steelers, I thought we'd have the same team. Mike Tomlin going 9-8 again and figuring things out. Maybe Kenny Pickett takes a small step forward, and I don't want to judge them totally for losing so bad to a good team like the 49ers. As you mentioned, the Browns struggle with the Steelers historically. I think the Steelers can win at home. I took Steelers to win outright. I took the Steelers to win with the points here, even when the points were 1.5. I'll take it. I don't know if that's going to end up happening, but this is me just telling myself every year. I feel like me and everyone else get in trouble because we try to analyze week 1 too much when it's a different ball game. So I'm going to go Steelers here. Could easily see it going the other way, though. But just be careful out there for anyone gambling this weekend. It's a tough week to gamble in week 2. You got to really figure some things out. Cease, any final thoughts for the week before we head off?
No, I mean, I'm excited for the Bengals home opener, and I'm excited to hopefully make some money off some overreactions on the sports betting lines.
Yes, we will definitely try to do that. My turn to remind everyone, we'll be back next week to recap week 2, to make picks for week 3, talk about all the news going on in the NFL. Make sure to like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts or on YouTube. That helps us out as we go along with this season. For now, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next time.
See you guys.